Hello friends, welcome. I'm Commissar Marek and today we are going to be making a special video which is gonna hopefully be a little bit funny, and that is going to be weird moments in Season 3 or weird logic in Season 3. What is this video going to be about? It is going to be about things that we take for granted that we see every day in the game, but they actually make no sense from a realistic point of view, and it's just gonna be a little bit of fun. The idea came from Spirit of the Law, who made a video that is called 20 Weirdest Moments in Age of Empires 2, and he points out things like, villagers hammering the ground and buildings coming up, or transport ship being able to fit 5 war elephants but not 6 villagers, and things like that. And that's gonna be basically loosely inspiring this video. However, I'm gonna put my own twist on it, of course, and it's going to be about Caesar. Something to be said as a disclaimer is that none of this is supposed to be pointing out as like, look at how Season 3 is bad or something. No. The game has been made a very long time ago by people who had relatively shallow understanding of Roman history, and from what I've heard from Araldir, who is one of the devs on Augustus' team, the devs themselves were essentially mostly inspired by reenactors from Britain at the time, and also some like old child books and things like that about Romans, and so their understanding of Roman culture and Romans have been relatively shallow. But remember that even to this day we get essentially every year there is a new excavation that revolutionizes how we see Romans. For example, the Pompeii excavations recently has brought us so much more vivid examples of how Roman life looked like. And so even if they were sticking to reality, it would not age well because we constantly learn new things. So without further ado, again, this is not supposed to be about making the game look bad or anything, it's just making fun of how some things are just ridiculous. Now, my own twist on this subject is going to also be that I will try to explain why the things that we see are the way they are from gameplay perspective, okay? So it's not just gonna be let's point and define a thing, but also why it might be as it is, because it might actually make sense. Since Season 3 is a game, it needs to take some creative liberties in order to facilitate, the game. Number 1. Buildings have much smaller entrances than the actual walkers look like. Look, for example, at this prefect and this prefecture. Does it look like this person could crawl in there? This is almost like the prefecture is some sort of doghouse that the prefect would live in. It definitely doesn't look like he could fit in any sort of entry that might be in there. Same as this engineer, for the matter, and you can actually see the same in like almost all the buildings. As the scale is kind of hard to get right in isometric city builders. So why is it like this? Well, the thing is, the devs knew that building something like a granary will obstruct the path beyond it, right? And so it's not great for clarity, because that's why we usually use overlays to know. But so if all of your buildings were tall, you would not be able to see the layout behind it or other buildings, and that's actually a major thing, and therefore it makes sense from gameplay design perspective, but it is a little bit ridiculous when you actually realize this and how it looks like. Number 2. Romans are unable to remove a small pebble from the field. So we can clear trees, and that's pretty much it. We cannot remove cliffs, we cannot terraform water, we cannot remove rocks, even though it's blocking construction. And in reality, Romans essentially were able to construct artificial harbors. They were able to, mine very effectively for their time and period. They were actually very decent in mining technology, and these things just don't make any sense logically, because you do so many things in the game, but something like a rock, no, you cannot remove a small pebble from the field. Now, why is this like that, and why do we not have shoreline terraforming? It's been discussed, but basically the reason is, if you were able to do that, you would turn every map into a geometric map. You would just put this whole shoreline into one giant line, and it would look really terrible, not to mention that it removes any sort of challenge, because then where do you stop? You then start terraforming cliffs, like you make the whole map essentially completely empty or with like one stretch of very straight water. That's what would happen if we had the power to do that. So it makes sense from design perspective, but of course from like a Roman and a historical perspective, this is ridiculous. Number 3, natives are irremovable. So as we know, Rome had a long history of conquest as well as capturing people as slaves for their society to use, and that was no exception to people in Gaul or wherever we are playing various maps. You see natives. Now these huts, make no mistake, these huts are made from the sturdiest material known to man. You cannot remove this. Even if you send your soldiers to it, they will do nothing. You cannot physically remove it. And so it's just permanently there, and you have to deal with it with pretty unreliable mission posts. And so it's just, you know, pretty hostile thing to have in your game about Romans. But the reason why it's here, it is because it's a gameplay mechanic. You're supposed to dedicate labor to pacify them, and you have to live with them and to force little inefficiencies and things like that. That's why they are here. They're essentially like rocks, but worse, right? So think of them that way. And yeah, so that's how the natives are a little bit ridiculous, because we physically cannot get rid of them. Number 4. Teleporting buildings from the Eldar webway. If you've played Warhammer, you know Warhammer, you know what webway is. So essentially this is like, you know, or StarCraft terms, this would be like Protoss warping in. Because unless it's a monument and we are playing Augustus, you know, all it takes is a little bit of money and boom, this thing exists, popped into existence. It doesn't look like something that you could put together on your knee in like half a second. Same as a theater, same as, you know, whatever. In vanilla, it's even more ridiculous. You could build a whole hippodrome like this. Just slap of a button, take the money and do it. And so Augustus makes it a monument, and so the realisticity is improved in many ways, but still, like, some of the things are still ridiculous. Why is it like this? Well, obviously, do I need to point it out? Tlatoani does something where everything's a monument, and it works for that game, but that's only because it's designed for it, and it's a much newer game than this. So essentially, the whole gameplay loop is designed around you being able to do these things and like plop it down, and many games do this. In fact, many city builders do this. So it's not like it's an isolated incident, but once again, just here to point out the ridiculous things. Number 5. There is no private economy. All the people living in the whole city, which is 9,728 people currently, are all employed, apart from people who are employed, are all employed by the state. State runs everything. So this is like a direct economy, pure socialism style, and well, that's not very realistic, is it? Because if you know anything about economy, usually there is a private aspect to it, and Roman society did in fact have sizable private aspect to it, and that's how you actually generate money. It's not like from government jobs you don't actually generate much money, apart from if it's an industry for a specific trade, which the ancient societies' economies were more controlled than our modern economies for sure, and they also didn't know about modern economics at all. And so it was definitely different, but it's not like this, where everyone works for the government essentially, and there is no exception. Also, another part which I'm gonna bolt together with this is everyone receives the goods from the market for free. So this Grand Insula, which is the highest plebeian housing, receives wheat, vegetables, pottery, furniture, oil, and all these things, as well as services, for completely free, apart from when you tax them. But if you don't tax them, if you don't have a forum, or if you don't do that, then these people live on all these goods for free. You don't actually you don't pay on the market to buy anything. You provide everything. Again, it reminds me a little bit of a direct economy from a certain ideology. So, just pointing it out. Why is it like this though? Well, again, gameplay reasons. It is a way to make the player have much control over production chains and everything without actually feeling like, something's out of your hands. And that's good. Like from gameplay perspective, it makes sense. However, again, logically, it is really weird. Number 6. There are maps that have trees, but you cannot use it for cutting timber. And this, you might say, is, oh, but it is accurate, Marek, because, you know, from history we know that Romans actually saw quoted timber for shipbuilding, and some trees just weren't good enough because they didn't grow straight, so you couldn't use them for ships or really many products. And yes, that's correct, but you could at least use them as fuel in the lighthouse, couldn't you? It's, you know, timber. Especially when the trees are like this, it's a freaking forest. But you physically would not have access. I do have access to timber here, I think, but like there's maps that have this kind of forest and you don't have timber. So, you know, just a little like strange things. Maybe there should be like 2 quality timbers, but that's maybe too complex. So maybe it's better that it's not like that. Just pointing out the obvious again. Number 7. Caesar invades the city always from the entry point. So, when you get Caesar upset and your favor drops low enough, Caesar will launch an attack to basically imprison you. And his troops always come from row to row. And like, yeah, it makes sense gameplay-wise because invasions are relatively linear. But you see how there are all these exposed edges? That's all possible invasion points. And I believe on this map, enemies only come from here and here. And so even the basic map design is actually pretty terrible. By, you know, there being wolves loose so they can eat your immigrants, so you have to wall them in, which is cheesy. But also, you know, this entire exposed edge is supposed to probably make you paranoid or something, because unless you played the map before, you know that you don't know that this is safe, but it actually is. And the Caesar troops, they do not walk over this forest to spawn over here. Instead, they will always come here and get slaughtered if you build defenses in here. They cannot pass through forests either, which I will pull together with that. So it's just weird game logic, but makes sense gameplay-wise. Again, for invasion points, they need to be relatively linear, so there's predictability and player knows what to expect and where things are gonna happen from. Number 8. You cannot physically bridge over the earthquake cracks, nor can you really do anything to pass them. They are forever impassable and they can block the city completely off. Why is it part of the game? Simple, it's supposed to be a block like that, and city builders need something like it, and so that's why it's like it is. It's a permanent scar on the face of the earth, essentially, for you, even though realistically earthquakes don't really behave like this, but, you know, again, it's a game, it needs to have mechanic like this, but they know how cursed it is, and so they only really use it in the vanilla campaign once in Tarraco, and then never again. Number 9. People teleport to their work. So this is apparent with global labor pool especially, since there is no house. But even if you don't use global labor pool, you can use feeder tents, meaning there could be a tent over here that's gonna house 12 people, and it will supply, you know, however many workers you need. So even like something like 100, 200 workers could source all their labor from the 12 because all the houses are linked. And so people from here would teleport to work all the way over here. And that's just how it works in Caesar. Why is it like it? Obviously, gameplay mechanic. And it's supposed to be like that. So I have no gripes with it. However, it is a little bit ridiculous from logic's point of view. And finally, number 10. People take months, not if years, to traverse the map. Because the scope of the game is that months fly by relatively quickly, and so any sort of people who are walking around, even immigrants or, you know, carters, this carter is going to be on a journey for a whole year before he sees his family. Not eating, not doing anything, just walking to his job. And so if you think about it, it's really stupid, but again, it's a city builder, it has the time frame in years, and this is how it's supposed to be. So I understand why it's there, but if you think about it, it's really stupid. So I just wanted to point that out. That's gonna be everything for this video about weird Season 3 logic. Let me know if I missed anything, if you have your own little incidents of weird Season 3 logic or what you think is the biggest offender. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching the video and see you around. Bye.